Greetings, I'm Shad, and I've found that medieval plate armour is often misunderstood. Now, there are some obvious misconceptions that I think are more commonly, dispelled regarding, say, the weight of plate armour for one, and that is that it is not nearly as heavy as many people think. You don't need to get winched or craned into a horse. You can get on a horse wearing plate armour quite easily without assistance, and that it actually weighs about the same as what the modern day soldier wears in their backpack. And also that weight is dispersed over the whole body. It's not just hanging over the shoulders, okay? It's hanging off shoulder, waist, arms, legs, shins, head, and so all that weight is evenly dispersed. And you can move around really well in that plate armor. It's articulated for almost any type of movement you want. You can roll, you can run. Now, having said that though, it doesn't mean it's not like you're wearing it. It does have weight to it. So you will get exhausted when running around in it. And those helmets can be quite confined and a bit hard to breathe in as well. And so, there is some truth to their perception that it can be difficult to wear to a degree, but just nowhere near as difficult as many people think. The thing that I often find people, misunderstanding about plate armor is that they often underestimate how amazingly good it is, all right? Now, first of all, you need to understand that I kind of put plate armor into two categories because you can almost say that plate came in two distinct kind of styles. And again, that might be oversimplifying it. There are hundreds of different types and hundreds of different of strength categories, but there really seems to be a distinction between hardened plate and pre-hardened before they figured out how to actually make hardened steel. And so that type of plate armor before hardening, and as I understand it, it's like it's through a double quenching process, and so it gets heated up to a really high degree, gets quenched, and then it gets heated up to a different degree, and they wait until the metal glows blue, and they quench it again, which realigns the crystalline structure of the metal. I mean, that term could be absolute bullcrap. This is how I currently understand it. But in any regard, hardened steel is a bit of a different beast compared to just, regular steel. And there are many different grades of regular steel in the first place. But the performance of such armor has a very distinct difference. Hardened steel, I believe under proper, battlefield conditions, you cannot pierce that stuff. I mean, the only thing that might have a chance is a lance from on horseback, but this stuff is phenomenal, all right? And this comes into one of the other points about armor, is that, first of all, proper hardened steel armor, you have no hope in hell of penetrating that steel with a sword. No. Oh, but there's artwork depicting swords chopping through helmets. That is generally considered as a medieval propaganda and has actually already been defunct by the good old Mike Lodes. He tested it out himself, and the sword bites into the helmet a bit, but no hope in hell of it actually cutting through. Doesn't happen. Soft steel, yeah, there's a chance you could cut through it with a sword, but I'm talking about soft steel. Just even regular steel that's not hardened, yeah, good luck trying to cut through it. But you might be able to puncture it with maybe the spike on a warhammer or something like that. Now, if there are cases that you can even actually puncture steel plate armor, all right? That's not exactly a good move. I've watched many recreations by many medieval enthusiasts that put this to the test. One, they never state how hard the steel is, and that bugs the hell out of me, because that is a very important thing to know, all right? To say that you can't draw a definitive conclusion saying that a warhammer spike or a war pick or something can penetrate armor without telling us what strength that armor is made or what strength steel that armor is made out of. That's something that I appreciate about Thane Thrand, that he generally states the strength of the steel that is testing against, because that's very important to know. Now, again, getting back to the point that I'm trying to make is that even if you have a weapon that can puncture steel, and again, that would generally only be non-hardened steel, but I'm sure there are cases and exceptions where a really powerful blow might just get through it, but remember, hardened steel, it's tough, okay? If you watch these videos where you show people, getting through armor or puncturing steel even to an extent, even if you can, I don't think that's a good move, because almost in every case that I've seen it, the weapon gets stuck in the armor. They have to like wrench the thing out, put their foot or something like that to get it out. It gets stuck in there really bad. And so, I mean, sure, if you want to disarm yourself, try and pierce that armor. And what I have also found, even with, they think, oh, we've pierced the armor, that means the person is dead. No, I mean, you have to understand, under that armor is at least going to be gambeson or something like that, and it only punctures about that much. And so, and gambeson is a lot stronger than people think as well. It's funny. So there are so many misconceptions and people misunderstand how medieval armor, or how effective medieval armor is. Gambeson, chainmail, mail, plate armor. So yes, even if it does puncture the plate, it needs to get through the gambeson, which is very unlikely. And even if it does, say even if it, got in by that much, it's not going to kill someone, all right? And then you have the problem of having your weapon stuck in that piece of armor. And so attacking someone in armor with the intent to try and puncture through that armor is pretty damn stupid. The truth is, you would never actually aim for the metal plates, all right? You would never do that. And this is, you see this mistake done everywhere in movies and video games so much. I mean, even this new game that Ubisoft is producing, For Honor, looks phenomenal, but their attacks, they're hitting, their opponents in the video trailers and stuff. It's hitting them, and it's like the armor's not even there. You see blood flying off, and it's like it's going through the armor like butter. No, armor is amazing, and if you're going to be hitting the plates, you're not even going to get through it. The only hope is to go for the joints. And that's what the spikes on warhammers and, halberds and stuff are used for, to get in those kind of crevices. Now, having said all that, okay, I've been talking about it's stupid to hit the plated parts of armor with the intent to puncture through it and kill them. No, I mean, that's stupid. But what about hitting those plated parts of the armor just to try and transfer heaps of blunt force into the person? Now that is effective, all right? It's kind of one of the main uses and functions of the poleaxe. That thing, I mean, I've heard people call it a can opener, all right? It'll dent armor, it'll bite into armor, but if it's certainly hardened, it's not going to get through it. But boy, is that person going to be feeling like, a fish in a barrel. Maybe that's a bad analogy. But anyway, they're going to be feeling, if you get someone with a big hit with a poleaxe in armor, I don't care if you're wearing armor, that's going to hurt. And I've experienced this in my own life in regards to, protection, because again, I've done martial arts before. And yes, it does not look like it nowadays. But anyway, when I was sparring with a mate, he had a big, a padded helmet, all right? And so that you'd protect him, and I landed a good solid. And it's funny, I put no strength into this kick. It was just a roundhouse kick where I was just putting my foot into the motion. No strength behind it all. Connected with the side of his head, and he was feeling dizzy for the rest of the day, and he had almost knocked him off his feet. And so the padding absorbed most of the blow, but still his head was accelerated by a sudden, force that it really knocked him around. That applies even if you're wearing a metal helmet. You do not want to get hit in the head by something that's heavy and has a lot of mass to it, like a poleaxe or a warhammer or a mace. And a sword can even hurt someone if hit him on the side of the head with a lot of force behind it. It'll still hurt them as well. I mean, it's better to probably hit him, with the quillin, reverse the sword, grab it by the blade, and you'll get a lot more energy transfer, because the force of a sword strike is dispersed along the full edge, and so that's a bigger area than the quillin, which is a very small area. So all that force is focused in on that one area. But swords can hurt people in armor, to an extent. I mean, especially if you hit him in the head, but on hitting on the arms and in the chest area, I mean, they probably will barely feel it from a sword, okay? Because a sword, even though you can get a lot of force behind them, a sword blade does not have a lot of mass, whereas an axe or, a poleaxe, that has a lot of mass behind the area that's hitting. And the head is the vulnerable area, so yeah, a sword would do damage to a helmet if you get a good hard strike, but you have far greater chances of surviving a sword strike to the head if you're wearing a metal helmet than if you were to suffer a strike from a warhammer or a halberd or something like that. So plate armor does not make you invincible, and I mean, it's proven by the fact that they made weapons that will hurt people in plate, and those are the specialized armor fighting kind of weapons, which of course are warhammers, maces, poleaxes, halberds, stuff like that. But you can't cut through it. And so, you know, that's something that that's a myth I want to destroy, blow out of the water completely. You cannot cut through hardened steel. Soft steel, you know, maybe, all right? But you're probably not going to kill them, and that's the chances of killing them are very low because you've got Gambison underneath if someone is armored properly. So even though you're not invincible, okay, you are protected to a very large degree, and it is hard to kill someone in armor. I don't really have experience of killing anyone in armor. You know, the reasons are that not many people wear armor these days, and I don't find myself fighting to the death with any individuals either. But facts are facts, I believe. And so yes, it is very hard to kill someone in armor, especially if you don't have the right weapons for the job. And it's funny, there is actually a weapon that is very, very effective at killing people in armor. In fact, it's kind of the unsung hero in regards to armor combating weapons. And yeah, I find this weapon is overlooked so much. What weapon am I talking about that is so effective at killing guys in armor? It's the dagger. The dagger is actually very effective at killing people in armor. You see, swords, they have many different shapes and designs throughout history, and that you can indeed find specialized sword designs that are made to combat armor. They're not nearly as effective as a proper weapon is made to combat armor, but they become more effective by these specialized designs. And one of those are fully tapered points. And this is not fully tapered, it has a small curve at the end, but you'll find ones fully tapered to a very acute point. That sword is made to fight armor, but it still has a problem, okay? And that's trying to direct that point into the very small and protected areas to which this point can penetrate. So we're talking about armpits, the visor, the eye slits maybe, behind the knees and other areas like that, and indeed through plates. But aiming something that has so much length from your fist, the part of your body you're controlling the sword with, is a lot more difficult than if you're trying to aim something that's far smaller. Try and practice this, do it yourself. Hold a sword or something like that, a stick, right? And draw an X on a wall or a target, run in with full force, hit it, and try and get as close to that X as you can. Do it with something the length of a sword and the length of a dagger, and check out the difference between the two. And you'll find you'll generally always be infinitely closer to the area you're trying to hit with a dagger than with a sword. And that's simply because if it's the point of impact, if it's closer to the part of your body you're directing it with, you can be far more accurate. And so even swords have a problem when they're trying to fight armor. And so that's the point of half swording. You see, with half swording, you're kind of grabbing the sword right here and you're turning it into a makeshift dagger or spear of the like, but essentially almost like a dagger from this, hand that's gripping the sword. And when you're doing that, well then you have far more control, and also your aim will be infinitely better in trying to get through those gaps in armor. So that's the point of half swording. But another way to avoid, the half swording altogether is just to carry a dagger on you. And indeed, most knights, they did carry a dagger right on their side. See, this is another thing that's often misunderstood about fighting in armor. And if you go and watch, people who are far more informed than me on the subject, and indeed this is the source of where I get my information, and these are the guys that actually train in armored fighting. They're in armor, they're half swording, and indeed they generally, you'll generally want to be fighting with a pole arm over a sword, but they would have a sword at their side to back up in case they lost their pole arm. But what you'll find is interesting that they get in really close and they're kind of fighting, and it looks really like a kind of almost like a martial arts wrestling contest, where one of the main things that they're doing is not necessarily trying to, stab them. Of course they are, but that's only if the opportunity presents itself to get, the point of the sword in. One of the main things they're trying to do is to knock the opponent off their feet, get them down, because as soon as they're down, oh boy, you have the opportunity then. And so a very prominent way in which armored, warriors, and because not all knights, it wasn't just knights who wore armor. There was other guys who wore armor, especially in the latter medieval periods. But as soon as they're fallen down, you have the opportunity to kill them instantly, and that's drop your sword, pull out your dagger, bang! And so that was actually a main finishing move. The first kind of tactic that I have learnt from my own kind of studies and research is that when you're fighting someone in armor, is not to try and kill them straight away, it's to immobilize them first. And that often involves knocking them off their feet. And once they're immobilized, then you kill them. And the perfect weapon to do that is the dagger. And so I wonder, and I can't say this with any level of credibility, but I wonder if the dagger has killed more armored warriors than any other weapon. And I mean, there's a lot of ways you can try and immobilize your opponent. One of the most effective I find, if you're like not an armored guy yourself and you're fighting someone in armor, one of the best ways to beat him is have two of your buddies grab him from behind. Bang! He's gone. He can't do a thing. And then you just walk up, dagger him. He's dead. And so yeah, armor and armor-based combat are very misunderstood things. And so I hope this has cleared up some of the misconceptions. And of course, as always, I hope you have enjoyed. So thank you for watching.